A blue chip stock, a market cap of 2.4 lakh crore rupees, a maverick founder, a leading IT services company, a slew of top level exits, a star CEO resigning before the end of his tenure, an insider taking over the reins, a company navigating an uncertain macroeconomic environment. No prizes for guessing the company that we're talking about. One that's been in the news a lot lately, but not necessarily for the best things.
The company reported in-line Q4 numbers, a slight decline on the top line, margins have expanded, but Q1 guidance, the June quarter guidance, has disappointed the street.
In a significant development for one of India's leading tech giants, Wipro, its chief financial officer, Jatin Dalal, has resigned from his position after more than 2 decades with the company.
One of the stories of the day is Wipro filing a suit in the Bangalore Civil Court, a case against the former CFO, Jatin Dalal.
Specific action now. Wipro has announced the resignation of its CEO Thierry Delaporte before his 5-year term ending in July of 2025. He'll be replaced by Wipro veteran and insider Srini Palya.
There's a lot to unpack, and we're going to do just that today. We're looking at what ails Wipro and what it's going to take for the company to get back in the pink of health. The biggest shakeup for the company in recent times would definitely be Thierry Delaporte's abrupt resignation. Wipro's 7th CEO resigned without completing his 5-year term, much like his predecessor Abhidali Nimuchwala, who decided to end his tenure prematurely in 2020. Delaporte had taken over as Wipro CEO on July 6, 2020 from Capgemini and has been instrumental in fast-tracking their restructuring processes. But it hasn't been easy. It has come with close to 10 senior executives resigning from the firm last year. The most significant ones being CFO Jatin Dalal, who joined Cognizant later, and the Chief Growth Officer Stephanie Trotman. As Wipro's new CEO Srinivas Palya looks to right the ship, we are doing some crystal gazing to see what lies ahead for the Wipro veteran. Here's Palya after Wipro's latest earnings.
Last year posed big challenges for the whole industry. It has affected Wipro's performance too. The economic environment is still uncertain, and there might be more challenges in the short term. However, the opportunity before us is limitless. We are on the brink of a major technological shift. Every client I talk to across industries is very eager to leverage AI to shape the future of their business. And at Wipro, we have been gearing for this moment. In fact, we have made substantial investments to strengthen our capabilities across the organization.
But what really went wrong with Wipro? Is it really a leadership crisis that Wipro is facing? How did Thierry Delaporte fare through his term? Can the global macroeconomic environment further amplify existing challenges? What should Srinivas Palya focus on first? And more importantly, is a turnaround possible for Wipro? To answer all of this, we have with us 2 ace analysts, Phil First of HFS Research and Peter Bender Samuel of Everest Group. Both Phil and Peter have a very deep understanding of not only Wipro's weaknesses but also its strengths. Listen in as we find out what it will take for the IT bellwether to get back on track. It's Friday, May 3rd. I'm your host, Diya Rekhi, and you are listening to Wipro's Woes only on the Morning Brief from the Economic Times.
The industry's been in contraction. We're in the 7th quarter in a row of a deceleration, and the last 2 quarters have been contraction. Wipro is one of the weaker performers in the industry right now, and its results were pretty much in line with where we thought they would come out.
That's Peter, What's he talking about? Well, 2 weeks ago, Wipro reported a 7.6% year on year drop in consolidated net profit for the January to March quarter at 2,858 crore rupees. The company's consolidated revenue also fell by 4.23% year on year to 22,208 crore rupees. The company's newly appointed Chief Financial Officer Aparna Iyer said that despite a challenging macro environment, Wipro's IT services margins rose. New CEO and Managing Director Srinivas Palya called FY24 a challenging year but said he was optimistic about the opportunities that lay ahead. But at the same time, for the June quarter, Wipro's guidance was quite bleak. It said it expects sequential revenue guidance of minus 1.5% to a growth of 0.5%. But here's me back with Peter. He just told me the industry was decelerating. I asked him why, and also why Wipro wasn't able to buck the trend like some of its peers. For instance, for the year 2023-24, Wipro's revenue declined by 4.4% in constant currency, which is a significant drop when compared to peers like TCS, which recorded a modest growth rate of 3.4%, while Infosys reported a 1.4% growth rate for the year. So what is it that's getting in the way for Wipro? This is what Peter had to say.
Well, first of all, I think everyone has come down off the highs of the post-COVID or the COVID boom. So I think no one is doing well against 2-3 years ago. Everyone has decelerated. The COVID boom was a period of very, very significant investment in technology, which the tech services firms benefit from because there's pretty much a 1 to 4 times ratio of when you spend $1 on technology, you spend $4 on tech services. That investment started to diminish, and at the same time, we had interest rates starting to rise. And although in the US we weren't in recession, the rest of the world most of the rest of the world started to move towards recession. In the US, the tech and tech services space decelerated fast as people basically, as discretionary spending evaporated or was removed, and that caused the whole industry to go down. Now, why is Wipro underperformed against its peers? I think that's a much longer story. Wipro really has been on a 20-year journey where it has slowly moved from industry leadership to really a weak position that it is in today. I think what Wipro didn't do that its peers did, it failed to really adapt to the changing times. 20 years ago, the industry was focused on cost savings and extract value from technology. The create value from is now balanced or is perhaps more prominent in the industry. Wipro focused on the cost takeout and did not make the investments and changes to keep pace with the rest of the industry. Consequently, it's been a slow 20-year slide where it's become incrementally less successful every year.
Peter has written a lot about Wipro and has called them a tier 1 player that behaves like a tier 2 player. And I asked him what he meant by that. Here's what he had to say.
Look, some of the smaller firms are very transactional and they chase the next transaction. If you move to the larger firms, let's just take TCS as a great example. They're very consistent. They set a strategy, they execute that strategy, they plow through. And when you were saying other peers had done better, TCS would be the poster child for that. And I think Wipro has been more transactional. It hasn't made the hard calls and the consistent investment. It's sort of run after taken a more transactional, more short-term view, and over time that's worked to their detriment. It hasn't, for example, been able to build as much of a consultative front end or capability. I mean, they did the banking acquisition, which was a step in that right direction, but they've got a long way to go to adding the consultative and the industry domain experience that is necessary in this new market. So Wipro tends to not stay at things, right? They get into a new area, but they don't push through as effectively as some of their competitors have.
Speaking of new areas, we can't get to the new without addressing the old, so I asked Peter about the huge leadership churn Wipro has witnessed lately. I started off by getting Peter to weigh in on Thierry's performance. Remember, Thierry came in at a time when Wipro really needed a directional shift.
Well, I think Theory was brought in to change that direction. And he took a lot of steps to do that, from adding capacity or capabilities through acquisitions to reorganizing and streamlining the organization. The executive turnover, I think, was a result of those changes that Theory and, quite frankly, the board supported, Theory executed, and quite frankly, that journey is not complete. He didn't finish that transformation. It is disappointing that he was brought in to drive this transformation and left before it was completed. That said, I think that the things he was driving, and it's not just theory, this was a decision made by the board, supported by the senior leadership. I think it's quite possible in 3 years' time we'll look back and said, this was exactly what Wipro needed.
Here I bring in our second expert, Phil First, who has a very different take on Thierry as a CEO.
I think the problem started to set in maybe, after he brought in a lot of external people, put them over, maybe some of the Wipro team that had built the firm, and maybe they'd started to feel a little slighted and overlooked, and he brought in a lot of fresh faces from outside the company. Some CEOs do that, and sometimes it doesn't work very well if they don't gel well with the existing teams, the cultures, and that sort of thing. So they lost some talent. Clients noticed what was going on. He made a very large bet with the consultancy, financial services consultancy, Capco. Originally, that looked like a good acquisition as well. But I think, in the last year and a half, things started to flounder a little bit. A lot of dissatisfaction in the middle ranks in the company. Thierry was seen to be fairly remote in Paris and not spending much time visiting US or India or some of the key locations in the business. And, I think things started to dissipate a little bit, and, Premji family board decided it was time for a change in recent times.
Which brings us to where things stand today. Wipro has a new CEO in Srinivas Palya, who has worked at Wipro for over 3 decades, and his last role, by the way, was as CEO for Americas, which is Wipro's biggest and fastest growing strategic market. I got Peter to give me his thoughts on what Palya needs to do to stage a turnaround.
I think first, I think he needs to continue or finish this transformation. I mean, Srini was part of the team that put this transformation. In fact, he got the job because his area best exhibited the transformation that Wipro was driving. So I think there's further to go. There's more investment that's needed. There's more streamlining of the organization. There's more attention to the large customers that they have that needs to happen. That said, I think Srini is well positioned. Where Theory struggled is Srini is a Wipro man. He came up through this organization, and I think he has the backing of the organization. I think there was a lot of loss of morale over the last few years as these different changes were undertaken, and I think Srini has a pretty good chance of capturing the hearts and minds of the Wipro faithful or the Wipro organization. And that morale and esprit de corps is vital in a services company like Wipro. So I think if you think of the most important thing he's got to do is build back that sense of self-confidence, as well as execute the rest of the plan that's already underway.
Here's Palya again, talking about the company's key focus areas going forward.
Accelerate large deal momentum by working closely with clients and partners. 2, strengthen relationships with our large clients and partners, and further invest in accounts that have the potential to grow into large accounts. 3, focus on industry-specific offerings and business solutions led by consulting and infused with AI.
Peter says Palya has his work cut out for him, but a lot will depend on his relationship with the company's investors.
Well, first of all, Srini needs a honeymoon period. And one of the problems with Wipro is they ask their new CEOs to drive too much too quickly. And so I think if the investors are patient with Srini, he's likely to succeed. He needs more investment. He needs more time to drive these changes through before they go asking him to raise margins. You can accelerate growth in the short term and you can raise margins in the short term. But laying the foundation so you can drive that effectively over time is different. Furthermore, I think Wipro is on the horns of a dilemma. They have a lot of investment in new capabilities, investment into strengthening their account teams in their clients. These are expensive to do. If they try to raise margins at the same time as they make these investments, they'll fail. It's a zero-sum game. So I believe the success of Srini is more dictated by the investor's patience than his ability to drive that.
So then, under Palya's leadership, what should be the key focus areas for Wipro? Here's Phil.
I think we are approaching a time of consolidation. So we will see some mid-sized service providers get acquired, particularly with areas of specialization in industries like healthcare, life sciences, financial services. And I think Wipro's got a history of making acquisitions. So I expect that to be a very important focus on, they need to make a move or two in the market, adding some additional capability. They've also got a very strong asset in Capco, which I think that they've announced they're going to keep separate, but I do feel as long as, and so do many other folks in the industry, that they should bring this under the Wipro umbrella more aggressively and use it to become more consultative. Because I think right now you've got the consulting firms like your Deloitte, EYs, they're competing directly with your Wipros and Cognizants and Infosys for the same business. The big consulting firms have moved more into the bread and butter IT services market, and the IT services companies are trying to move a bit more into the consultative domain. And so if you're a major client right now, it's who do you place a bet on for long-term success? They've traditionally been very strong in healthcare, for example. They've lost clients in that space in life sciences. Maybe they can need to look to invest in some additional assets there that could be effective for them as well. They need to train a lot of their people on AI skills. I think you saw TCS come out and claim they've already got half their staff trained on Gen AI already. Wipro need to do the same things and not just say it, but do it. And I think at the moment it's tighten the ship, stop the bleeding, make sure everybody is set on the new direction and with some renewed vigor and enthusiasm, and then make sure the clients are on board, because that's where this really matters. Are the clients on board the journey? Do they still have confidence in Wipro as a partner? And will they invest more in them? Because I feel there's another 30-40% of value in many of the existing clients that Wipro can exploit if they get this right.
Also, I'm sure you've heard the adage that an organization is only as strong as its leadership, and nowhere is that more relevant than a tech service firm like Wipro. Here's Phil.
Services firms are people companies, and leadership companies, especially who's leading the business, has a big impact, huge impact. So, I think Wipro is such a cultural business in itself. It has a wonderful owner, Premji, who's a phenomenal philanthropist and a very well respected. They're a liked company. So I think having some fresh blood at the helm, someone who's died in the wool, Wipro from the very early days. Sometimes you need to dig deep and get some of that DNA of old and combine it with some culture and DNA of where you want to go. And, I think we've seen examples in other companies. You saw Ravi Kumar at Cognizant. I think he's had a tremendous impact there. And, Mohit Joshi, the Investors reacted very positively to his first quarter already, just his ideas and focus at the helm there. So you can look, and then CVK at HCL, he's had a wonderful impact of stability and vision leading that company, and they've been probably the best performer in the last 2 years in this industry because of that. So leadership is so important in this business.
And at this point, where AI is all the rage and clients are key, Phil said there was nothing more crucial for Palia than joining hands with the right clients and not getting carried away. Here's him explaining why.
This is a critical time where you need to make sure you partner with the right clients. There's one thing bringing forward your renewals and giving everybody a 20% discount. Clients are going to providers right now, and many of them are saying, hey, I want a 30% discount on Gen AI, without really knowing how they're going to do that. So if you're a provider, you need to make damn sure you have a partner with you who is going to have the same cultural mindset of change. Because if you're going to take out 20 to 30% of cost, drive that sort of value home with AI tools, for example, you need to do a lot of change to your people, processes, debt, and technology.
Wipro started off as Western India vegetable products in a small town in Maharashtra. The company was incorporated on December 29, 1945 by Mohammad Hussain Hasham Premji and was involved in the vegetable oil business. Azim Premji, the son of Mohammad Hussain, was studying at Stanford when he received an unexpected call to come back to India after his father's untimely demise. All of 21 at the time, Azim took over his father's business, and through sheer grit, determination, and a clear vision of the big picture, he transformed the business. Wipro went from being a vegetable oil mill to one that left behind its legacy as a commodity-based business and started delving into businesses such as software service and information technology. In 2000, Wipro became a $1 billion company, which was also listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And fun fact, Azim Premji helmed the company for 53 of Wipro's 78 years. The company has witnessed several ups and downs since. The last few years have been no different. At a time when the IT industry at large is facing headwinds, Wipro has been buckling under pressure due to softer global cues as well as their own internal leadership churn. With Thierry's unexpected departure and now Srinivas Palya's appointment, the company seems to want to prop up one of its own to get through this patch. Like our guest said, it isn't going to be easy, but Palya is seen to be among the best people for the task. As we head into a new financial year, the optimism around Palya becoming CEO is palpable. He has his work cut out for him for sure, but the biggest thing he needs to tick off his to-do list is to boost the morale of Wipro employees. For a company that's older than India's independence, resilience is not something alien. Coupled with the general goodwill that comes with Wipro, people are hopeful that a turnaround will happen soon. Thank you, Phil and Peter. It's Friday, May 3rd. I'm your host, Diya Rekhi, and you were listening to Wipro's Woes only on The Morning Brief from the Economic Times. This episode was produced by Vinayak Agarwal, sound editor Amrit Reggie, executive producers Anirban Chaudhary and Arijit Burman. Special thanks to Samir from ET's tech team, who is the go-to guy for all things IT. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Tune in to ET Play for all audio content. You can also listen to our podcast on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thank you for listening and have a great weekend. All external sound clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits are mentioned in the description.